it's me, Renee. I'm back with a book review for A Bookish. Now, this book, kind of, I would say, in a way, epitomes, um, demonstrates how important it is, at least in my case, to give books a second chance. Because this is a book that I DNF'd some years ago. Uh, but then I kind of kept hearing people saying it's such a good book. And I also had got it from a library, so I thought, well, why not just go to a library and get it again? No, like no money lost. And also, so this is actually the first book that I tried by this author. Second book, I believe it's the first book, and Dean left it quite early on, I believe. And then, yeah, and then afterwards, I read several books by this author and enjoyed the work much more. And so I thought, you know what, Renee, let's get to that book. The book, A Lady for Duke by Alexis Hall. So Alexis Hall writes both contemporary romances but also historical romances, this being one of them. I believe they also have written some historical romantasy or like romances where there's fantasy elements. I think there's maybe some fae in some of the books. But yeah, A Lady for Duke is a book where one of the main characters is trans, which I mean, it happens, I would say, in contemporary romances. I don't believe it's that common in historical ones. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong. I haven't checked it. But but yeah, this is a very good book, obviously. It's friends to lovers romance. Uh I was about to say it's a second chance romance. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hinted at that they were kind of in love before like the change happened, but I'm not quite sure. Uh, for most of the book, it's kind of romance, and then at the end, there's some action. That like, oh, it doesn't come out of left field, but it feels a bit weird. But it's not shoehorned in there, and I do like the way it's handled and written. It just kind of makes sense, though it was a bit surprising. Yeah. Uh, this book is about well, it's dual point of view, but it's about Viola who goes to the Napoleonic Wars in her before phase, I would say, in a way. In a way, yeah, let's just say that. She is presumed dead, and then after she, like, during the war, like, in the battlefield, she's found by some French people who take her in, and there she kind of becomes her real self as Viola. I would say we don't really quite know, like, how she came to the name Viola and whatnot. But also, we don't really know how she came to the name Carol because she now is Royal Carol. I don't know if that's important, but I'm kind of curious how she got that name. But anyway, so after being kind of recuperated in France by this nice couple, she goes back to England and she goes to her old home, which now her brother owns because like she was presumed dead, so her brother has title and whatnot. I believe I don't quite. Also, we don't quite know how soon she tells her brother everything, but her brother knows who she is. That she is the sibling. That's a sister. And she ends up being a companion for her sister-in-law. So that's kind of how her life is now. And we kind of meet Viola 2 years ish after Viola comes to be. I don't know if this is a polite way to say it, but I'm trying my best here. I suppose I could. Yeah, anyway. And she finds out that her best friend from childhood, or from earlier, is really going through it. He's really having a hard time. Turns out he's very much grieving the friendship and the friends that he had that, died during the war. You know, that being Viola. But also, I would say in general, is kind of struggling after the war with wounds and whatnot. And he also has a sister that is kind of isolated and whatnot. So Viola, and her sister-in-law goes to this friend's house. They try to make him see that his sister needs a season. We'll say the outing, a season, a coming out, as they did back then. And in the beginning, it's just kind of hi, I'm Viola, you don't know me, but like still kind of they like sense like this familiarity here. And then Viola just comes in that say, I'm not dead, I'm just Viola, I'm not the person you used to or you thought I was. Uh, and yeah, it's a romance, so love happens. And yeah, the romance in this book is so endearing and so nice. And also, honestly, there's really not that a lot of transphobia in it, which you might think because it's a historical romance. It's not fantasy romance. But also, I suppose this kind of thinking that trans people have just turned up in the world. I mean, there's probably been trans people in throughout time, every time period and whatnot. And in this one, it's not a world where trans people are more accepted, but it's a world where the main character, or one of the main character, he's a duke. Is a name a lady for a duke, so he has money. Well, not necessarily, but this duke has money. So they end up getting married, and he bribes the priest and whatnot to just, yeah, this is Viola. So yeah, and also Viola's kind of thinking like, how is it like she wants to have kids, but she can't have kids because she hasn't had surgery. Uh, but they end up adopting, which I kind of felt like throughout the book, I was like, adopt, adopt. I mean, it's not like if you can't have your biological kids, you can't never have kids. I mean, there are uh, opportunities elsewhere, really. Adopt, you could foster, what have you. So, yeah, but they end up adopting in that great epilogue that we have in this book, which is quite nice and fun, really. And but yeah, but in addition to the main characters, the side characters also very interesting. You have endearing nephew, little Bartholomew, and I just love him. And yeah, honestly, this is a book that people have told me it's an amazing book, and I would say yes, I agree, it's amazing. Because right, honestly, I don't really have any complaints about the book. It's just a book that I highly recommend. It's just so well done, and yeah, I have no gripes, complaints, small or big. It's an amazing read that people should check out if you like historical romances or not. I suppose maybe you're curious, like, why did you DNF it the first time around? So I would say, for some reason at least, the first chapter felt like it had a bit like more old timey language, but the second, because this time I kind of wanted to give it more than a few chapters to get into it. The second chapter, I would say, honestly, in my head at least, the language either gets better. Maybe I'm just more used to it after a while. I'm not quite sure. But it's not old timey all the way. At least it doesn't feel that way. And that was kind of the reason why I DNF'd it the first time. But that's also the only bad thing. The beginning is a bit old timey weird, so if you kind of don't like that, but also I would say like give it a go because the rest of the chapters are amazing and highly worth it. So yeah, A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, highly recommend it. Also, the author is trans. I don't know if they're trans or non-binary, but like they're on the trans spectrum. So it's their own voices book, and yeah, very good book. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you smile, it'll make you happy you read it, and I highly recommend it.